So I'm going to call the meeting to order at
6:32.
Yeah, I was going to say 6:32. And for the record, we have John Mayer representing Spectrum, Rich Frederick from CTSB, and the committee members are, well, Denise's secretary is here. Renee Wood is here. Tom Hatch. I'm having a little trouble today. Tom Hatch, Dennis Arsenault, Jim Brown, Renee Wood, and is Mike here? Mike Kernan? He's not here.
I haven't seen him on.
Pardon me? Mike? Hello, you there? No. Okay. And myself, that's there. So do I have, do we want to read the minutes, or are we just going to have a motion to accept the minutes as written? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, this is Renee Wood of Sheffield, that we do not read the minutes and we accept as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have to do a roll call vote, Linda.
Oh, okay. Roll call vote it is. Tom Hatch,
Aye.
Dennis Arsenault,
Yes.
Jim Brown,
Aye.
Renee Wood,
Aye.
Linda Miller. And that's the vote. Renee, on a roll call, on a unanimous vote, I have to do a roll call?
On every vote, when you're on a virtual meeting, you have to do a roll call vote, and every person has to say their name and give their vote. Unfortunately, It's the new regs with COVID.
I hope they're gone by next meeting.
Since we didn't say our names, does that mean we have to start all over again and actually say our names?
No, Linda called the roll call.
Okay,
So just as long as you acknowledge when she calls, you're good.
good. Thank you.
Okay, the first report is CTSB report, and Rich is doing that. Rich,
No,
your mic is not
Mike's not
open.
on.
He's muted.
Yep, there we go. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. So at the January CTSB board meeting, I stated that all of our goals for 2020 were accomplished in a timely manner within budget and all during a pandemic. We have recorded hundreds of virtual meetings, allowing our community to watch from the safety of their own home. CTSB staff, along with our board and community members, have been working diligently to create and implement new goals for 2021. Some of those goals include upgrading our studio with a large green screen, ceiling to floor painted set, and removal of the current stage. We are also in talks with the staff and board at WBCR Radio in Great Barrington to create a partnership that will allow the sharing of content and the addition of a live community morning radio show broadcast on CTSB. One key part of this partnership will be the ability to remind our community where they can watch our channels as we continue to struggle with a community that thinks we are no longer here. We are still asked by many community members as to what channels we are on. Other goals we are currently working on include covering high school basketball games live, creating a member experience store where members can see the latest video production tools and learn more about the equipment before signing it out. CTSB now has a YouTube channel that complements our new website, along with other social media platforms such as Facebook and Vimeo. The most difficult goal this year will be our ad campaign. We have created graphics for where to watch and how to join. but already we have learned the cost for these ads in both physical and digital spaces is extremely expensive and may not work within our budget. CTSB continues to promote itself using social media because it falls more in line with our budget. Making the community aware of our broadcast channels remains one of the most difficult and elusive challenges facing us now. So I'm going to move on to quick stats. Our current stats for the month of February. We covered 43 meetings in February. All 43 were remote virtual meetings. 2 were broadcast live and 3 were broadcast live on Facebook. Our current membership is 133 members in total. New membership this month is 4 new members. We have 6 renewals, 7 expired members, and March will see the renewal for 8 additional members. And that's it for my report. If anyone ever has any questions about our goals for last year, our goals for this year, feel free to ask during the meeting or anytime outside the meeting. Our goals are pretty extensive. I could probably sit here for 20 minutes stating all the goals that we put into motion last year and accomplished, and all the goals facing us this year. But again, to reiterate, our channel numbers are probably is probably the one goal that we can't quite accomplish.
Can you furnish us with a bulleted list of what your goals are for the coming year?
I can.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I have one other question too, and that is about your expired memberships. I have a membership. It's going to expire sometime. I have no idea when. So do you send out emails or something to let us know when it's time to renew our membership?
Yes, Shane Bruno sends out a monthly email to expired memberships. So you should receive something from Shane at CTSB. Did your membership expire this month or last month? Or
I don't even know if it has expired. I have no idea.
Okay.
But what I do still get a monthly newsletter from you. So apparently it hasn't expired, but I don't know when it's due.
Yeah, I will have Shane reach out to you and let you know.
All right. Thank you.
Rich, this is Renee Wood from Sheffield. First of all, I really want to thank you for the faithfulness with which you have recorded so many of our meetings. People tell me it's the only way that they really kind of stay in touch. And with regard to the problem of getting people to know what channels you're on, I wonder if I'm kind of saying this without having permission from the folks at Town Hall, but I'm wondering if we could look to do an insertion with something that you would want to say about that in our next quarterly tax, in something we send out. I just realized we don't do our tax bill, somebody else does, but maybe our transfer station renewals. I can find something. I wouldn't even mind handing this out if the town clerk would allow it at the polls, because it's information and it's helping our community to understand what's going on. Could we work something out, and maybe the other towns would want to pick that up?
Yeah, yes, that would be great. At our last board meeting, mailers was an option, an alternate option for our ad campaign, and we can. The ads are already created, and we could probably print a small mailer and distribute them out to the towns, and in hopes of getting them out to community members.
Yeah, well, I would let me get back to you, because it would have to fit in within a certain format.
Okay.
But you wouldn't have to pay the postage. We would slip it into something that we're already mailing.
Okay, great, perfect.
Okay, I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Denise, I see that Michael has joined us.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I had a
Michael,
little,
you
I had a little trouble logging in. I had to cut and paste both the Zoom link and also then go back to my email to find the passcode. Normally, I could just click on the thing, the Zoom link, and there I am. But I'm here now.
Okay.
Michael, someday we'll have a one-on-one and I'll show you how to do this.
Who's the wise guy? Who's the wise guy?
It's Denise.
Okay.
John, was giving a lot of thought to this subject about the channels because amongst other things, I looked up on your website, your channel lineup for that tier that is the equivalent of the basic tier. And I found that it said, let me see, I'll get the exact things, what is given there for the 3 channels is, hello, it's in here. Here it is. For 1303.001, it says PEG. For 1302, it says Higher Ed Access. And for 1303, it says Gov. Now, that doesn't, it's not relating anything that would get people to know what we're talking about. And I came up with, I think if we can get them changed for something that will work for all the towns that have, they may have their own programming and all that, but it will work in terms of the designation. If we called it community for all 3 of them, but a 1 would be just plain community. A 2 would be community ed, and 03 would be community gov.
You know, Linda, if,
Yeah.
if we're, I see very long titles and I see real blocks of time. So do we really have to have such short abbreviations? Do we not have room for, you know, government or community education or something? I mean, I like the idea because it doesn't matter whether you're in North Adams or Pittsfield or down here.
Exactly.
But can't we have, you know, can't we have?
I
few more words?
don't know how many characters, I don't know how many characters are allowed there.
Yeah,
but-
well, let's ask John for something that makes sense. And if he can't get it, he can let us know.
Yeah,
John,
my guess is there's a physical limitation. It's like when you build websites and you have only a certain
yeah,
amount of space or something. So
that's what I was talking about, characters, you know. John, can we explore that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was on mute, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so community public, community education, and community government, right?
No, just for the public, just leave it community. You don't even put, you don't need
Oh.
public. Just
All right, so community education, community government.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I think she said community ed and community gov, not the whole word. Well, it would be
Well,
nice if the whole word fit, but if it doesn't, then the abbreviation, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. If we can get the whole words in there, fine. But I gave the abbreviations if we're limited to the number of characters.
okay,
Well, let's ask for what we want, and John can tell us if we can't have it.
right.
If we ask for an abbreviation, we're going to get an abbreviation. Let's ask for what we want. And you know, is community? Is it access? Is there no other descriptor that can go with that?
Well,
I mean, Fred, excuse me, you know, Rich, what's on that PEG channel? It's public access. It's community access. What type of programs?
community TV.
Yeah, 13, it follows the PEG format. So 1301 is public, 1302 is education, and 1303 is government.
Okay.
It occurs to me there may be substitute words for community if that's too big. We could use local, for instance. There are probably other things in the dictionary that would work too.
Well, the community, it means for us, it's community television of CTSB. It's community television Southern Berkshire.
Yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
And in Pittsfield, it's Pittsfield Community Television. So, you know, so the community is the link in terms of the naming of it.
So that's common to all the systems is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so for 1301, are we shooting for community public or community access or community public access? What
Community
What's the-
television or community TV.
TV? All right. Okay.
Can I ask that we get an answer to that before our next meeting?
Yeah, please.
In fact, it's one of the problems with this group is we only meet every 3 months. That means something that should be solved in a week, it takes a year. So I'd appreciate getting something back. Either we can't do it, or this is the alternative, or whatever, within somewhat of a more reasonable amount of time that the normal response we get from Spectrum.
Yeah, as soon as I hear back from folks, I'll probably email folks in the morning, and as soon as I hear back, I'll let folks know.
Okay.
I
Good.
could let Linda know.
Yep. And, you know, if we need to play with the titles, the key is that they each should be headed up with community.
Got it?
Okay. Okay. All right, so then we take, you know, that's actually further down on the, it's under the unresolved issue. So now hopefully we have a resolution, so we won't repeat that as we go ahead. Let's see. Anybody else want to ask Rich a question or have something to say? Your wonderful report. Okay, Spectrum report. John.
So good evening, everybody. As far as the billing complaints go, please have customers call customer service on any of those issues, or if you let me know directly, just email me if there's an issue. If you have a particular instance of, you know, XYZ got their bill late and, you know, the address and phone number, that would be helpful for me to investigate such issues. And with the billing date changes and payment window, I know it's been an ongoing issue, but we continue to train our employees on this information and try to get consistent information out. So we're trying to address that issue on an ongoing basis. The Colebrook South and Lennox Complex service issue follow-up. All issues we are aware of that were brought to our attention just prior to the last meeting have been addressed, thanks to George and his team. As Linda said, George had a conflict come up tonight. He was supposed to be on the call tonight, and he's going to try to join later if he can. And as I said at the last meeting, we will fix our wiring and any issues a customer may have with our service if customers call to report those issues. So just urge folks to call any particular issues in if they see anything. And for the underserved areas in Sheffield, as a follow-up, and as I said at the prior meeting, these have to be handled on a case-by-case basis. The customers have to call and go through the service, call customer service to start the process. I've found that if I try to get involved in those particular things, it just bogs things down. So that's my suggestion on those. As far as other issues, CTSB 16, 17, and 18. I said before, it's available at the starter basic tier, and it is available on every tier that we offer, just on different channel numbers than 16, 17, and 18. And I'll look into having community TV on 1301, community education on 1302, and community government on 1303. So I'll look into that, and as soon as I hear back, I'll let Linda know. And communication, I forget who just said it, Jim or somebody, about just communicating back quickly. I urge the committee to also, if anything comes up anytime, just email me about any issue that comes up on a regular basis rather than waiting to this quarterly meeting. As an example, Tom, with that zip code issue that was ongoing, I didn't fully grasp what the issue was till he actually sent me an email with what the issue was. And then I was able to understand it and it got taken care of. after the December meeting. So that's an example. And thank you again to Linda and Renee that expressed, how wonderful our store employee was in our lease store. And I passed on that to her management team. So thank you. It's nice to hear those compliments. And that's my report for this evening. I did send another, a robocalling bill. I forget why, if it was on the agenda or whatever, but I guess it's become an issue. And Charter obviously does not like it, and we've taken steps to get rid of robocalls the best we can. Of course, you come up with something and they find a way around it, but Charter is doing its part to fight robocalling, because everybody gets them on a regular basis, whether you're on a do not call list or not. It's pretty complicated and complex, but we are doing our fair share trying to fight those and prevent customers from getting robocalls. So I sent that along as an attachment.
Okay, John, I just wanted to say that I have noticed it on my phone. And the way it shows up is that your caller ID says scam, what's the word?
Spam alert.
No, it's a scam alert, not spam. It says scam alert. But it shows the number. So if it's a number that you don't know, you can choose not to answer it, or you can do what I do, which is answer it and hang up immediately.
Yeah.
So that's that. So if people look at their caller ID and there's somebody who's calling, it doesn't catch everything. Obviously, it can't. But it's been showing up quite a bit in my house, where we've had a lot of spam calls, that it's helpful.
Good. Glad to hear that.
John, this is Renee. I just want to let you know on that last call that had gone on for 3 months, and there were numerous customer calls to service. I only get involved when people get really desperate. Also, Linda, just a caution, many of these calls are just trying to find out if a number is viable so that they can resell it. So if you pick up and then hang up, you've made that connection. It's just best to ignore it, is what I've been told and what I've read. Because if you pick it up, they know it's a viable line, and many of them are just in the business of selling phone numbers to other people. So it's a tough world out there.
Also, if they ask, is this like Denise, and you say yes, that's the other, they have you.
Well, now they not only have a number, but you've just confirmed the person who's registered for that phone. So I've always been told it's just best to let it go to voicemail. They won't leave a message. And after a certain period of time, they will actually stop calling. These are all robocalls, just trying to pick up numbers and pick up name confirmations.
John, do you know how many rings it takes for it to disconnect?
No, but I do the same as Renee. I just ignore them. If I get a message that it, as a possible robocall, I just ignore them. Because if they know you, they'll leave you a message. If they don't, they'll either call you back or text you or email you. But
just a note, I actually have my phone system to take 6 rings, and I've noticed that the spam calls will hang up after 4 rings almost universally. So that, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's been my experience.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to point out that it does show on the caller ID, and people should, if they look, they'll see it, and they can act accordingly.
I would like to add that if you get your phone through Spectrum, there's go to a website, NOMOROBO, Nomo Robo, and it's free, and you fill out the information, and if it's a known, if they can figure out it's a robocall, it rings once and it goes away. Now, there are calls that get through, but that works very well for us.
That's a new one on me. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay, N-O,
No robo.
N-O, Robo, no mo robo. And go online. It says it's a free service and it only works if you're getting your phone line through a cable company.
Okay. Well, that's good news. Anybody else have any, oh, well, let's see what else we have here for John. Mike, you wanted to talk about automatic cancellations? Mike, you still there? Mike
Yes,
Burnett?
I'm right here.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, one is several items. The first is concerning for all our subscribers. That's an automatic cancellation over a late payment. And I had been speaking with a neighbor, but this one happened to me about it. I missed the January payment. Okay. Spectrum, Charter Spectrum sent me a reminder dated February 8th. And here we get into their mailing again. I received it on February 16th. In red, it stated, quote, a payment due date of February 21. Nothing else in the letter said anything about termination or anything like that. So I sent the check in right away on February 16th. Comes February 22nd, I have no service in the afternoon. So I call up and the clerk tells me that service was, quote, temporarily disconnected, close quotes, until the computer says, close quote, bill paid, close quotes. The next evening, and I said that I sent it right away. This is 5 days later, 6 days later. The next evening on February 23rd, service was restored. For me personally, I missed an important meeting. For anybody who receives a bill and somehow is late, perhaps it's COVID-19. It wasn't me, but my situation, but it could happen to anybody. You get your second monthly bill. It includes the first one on it. Then they send you a letter. Then they terminate. To make it worse, my new bill, guess what? There's a $5 termination fee for something they did. Plus, there's another $4 late payment fee. There's something wrong with this system, especially when the clerk tells me the computer didn't record the bill being paid yet. So we got to go through another set of hands or mechanics so that the computer enters they received a check. Okay. That's a serious problem. It was not life-threatening to me, but it could have been to somebody. Any comment?
Yeah, I think the thing to do is to file a consumer report, a complaint with the state.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I'm just speaking, I'm not speaking obviously for Spectrum, but every time one of these things happens, you know, you spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
That happened to me over a year ago, and I got robocalled several times a day until their computer, which was actually a check that they had already cashed, they said they didn't have it. So I think the only thing to do when this happens is just start to flood the state consumer complaint department, and then things start happening. Otherwise, you know, it just continues to go on and on from one person to the next person.
Yes, thank you, Renee. You reminded me that I meant to make another statement at the beginning of my little talk here, is that I have filed the conflict of interest form with the Great Barrington Town Clerk, as I am a customer of Spectrum and I have issues with its billing procedures. However, I will perform my duties with this committee objectively and fairly. So yes, we will be looking into what happened. John, do you have anything to say about this situation? Where anybody could have their service disconnected because they're a month late in payment of, was it $75?
And Mike, if you want to send me an email, I can certainly investigate that further. So when was your first bill in January due?
What's it, January? It says January 9th or something. I must have misplaced it or something. I did not pay it.
And February 8th, you got a second bill.
I got my second bill around
16th,
February 6th or
21st.
7th, due tonight, but I also got a letter from a separate thing. February 8th, it was dated, received February 16th, which, and there's nothing there about termination whatsoever. It just says payment due date February 21st. They disconnected on February 22nd in the afternoon. I said, something's wrong with my everything, just not working. It was coming in sparingly. And then I called them up, and this person, nice person, but can't do anything, says, "Oh, you're temporarily disconnected." Well, I said I mailed a check. Well, the computer doesn't say bill paid.
Yeah, like I said, if you could send me a quick email on it, I took notes on it, and I can have that investigated.
Thank you, I will.
You're
I know
welcome.
I'm not a committee member, but I can tell you also, I mailed my February payment on February 5th. And I got a letter in March with the February and March due. And it said you have until March 15th, and then there will be an interruption of service because they never got the check. Now, granted, the mail is like atrocious right now. And if you can pay online, you're better off paying online instead of, and still they have not received or acknowledged my February check. So,
Okay, thank you, but the notice I received did not say you will be terminated or anything like that.
I have to look and see. Mine's right here.
And I had a previous experience with paying by my checking account. And after I moved from New York State, they were still billing me 4 months later, even though I had service over here in Massachusetts. So I'm not a big fan of that either. But like I said, this could have been dire circumstances for someone because internet service is an essential today.
And Denise, I know you're not a committee member, but certainly send me a note on it, and I can have yours investigated as well.
All right. I think,
As far as I'm concerned, you're a member of the committee.
So I have
Yeah.
a question. I have a question. I hadn't thought about this, but Michael just said that he filed a conflict of interest because he's both a customer and on this committee, which I think is probably most of us. Is that considered a conflict of interest?
Not at all.
No, but I did a form because I knew I'd be making this issue about billing procedures.
Uh-huh.
That
Okay.
we make issues all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Most people who know me on the committee know that I'm a real stickler for all this stuff. I'm getting nothing out of being on this committee. Okay. There's nothing I'm getting from Spectrum. There's no gain except, time and service to our community. But I also just wanted to mention that I think sometimes, while I know it is a pain, if it's really beginning to look like it's getting close or it's going to be a really bad situation, as we commented our last meeting, there's a wonderful service person over in Lee who can take every payment. Maybe if we all get out a little bit more, we'll be closer to Lee when those circumstances of paying in the office are, at the office are needed.
So I just pulled my statement out, and on the statement, it says in red, action required, account status delinquent. Your account is now in a delinquent status. The total delinquent amount is due immediately and must be paid to avoid collections activity, including potential service suspension. If you resume service after disconnection due to non-payment, your past due balance along with first month of service and a reconnection fee will be required.
I guess I didn't get to that because mine says, just a reminder, we have not received your payment. If we've already paid, please disregard it.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about discontinuation or anything like that.
Yeah, I think mine is just totally the mail.
Well,
I
I
mean-
think they skipped a step with me.
No?
It was you, they
Okay,
said you were
this
threatening, no,
this has been,
discontinuance. I didn't
this has
get
been
that.
discussed. Can it go to John and we can move on with this meeting,
Yep.
please?
John, it persists, just so you know. The bill's coming late. In the past 3 months, 2 out of the 3 months, my bill came after the due date. And the other one, it actually came on the due date. Now, I pay my bills on the phone. So it goes directly into the computer, and if you do that, you might find that it helps get stuff done better. But also the mail is not coming. Your mail is the only thing that comes that late to me. Other stuff is 3, 4, 5 days late, but your mail is way late. So that says that it's not being put in the post on the day that it is issued, or the next day, or the next day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree with that. It's going down to a mail room somewhere in the building. Maybe automatic toys are used to post this stuff. Maybe someday it gets delivered to the post office before it gets shipped out of wherever the bills come from. And every bill I get seems to have a different address on it. Florida, Indiana, Carolina, I don't know. But they come 6 to 10 days after the bill date. All my other mail gets here in about 2 days.
Okay, enough on that issue. I
Yes.
think, John, you've got all the notes there, right? So can we please get that checked to find out when the mail, you know, I'm going to tell you something. I spent many years as a marketing consultant, and whenever a mailing was done, any mailing, it was seeded. Do you people seed your mailings at all? Seeded meaning something will come to you on in a mailing that's going else to other people. That way, you know when it's going out and when it's being received. And because you've got to, your people have to check you. I don't trust that it's going out appropriately. Okay,
I have it,
Okay.
yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Payment will know, Colebrook South. I wish George had been here, just because the last I heard that they were still waiting for some parts for some stuff, but they had accomplished a lot with that. Okay.
Yeah, when I spoke to George, he said things were in pretty good shape. I talked to him last week. I haven't talked to him this week.
I just did a quick email with him, so we didn't talk. Communications, we need to communicate better with you, and you need to communicate better with us. We've got to stop having these communication difficulties. So I think, we're not going to, save stuff up for the meetings. We will communicate with you, but we will also put them all on our meeting agenda to discuss things as they occur, after they occur, and how they were resolved, hopefully, rather than just, throwing stuff out at you here at this meeting. We're going to try and make sure we do that.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, you have to promise us that you will respond as quickly as possible.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Our license renewal is coming up 2 years from this month. Okay. I am now looking, I will be establishing today a working group from our side. And I would like you to do the same. The last time we negotiated, we had a working group as well. And you people had a working group as well, which included in the working group, you weren't there, so you haven't been around that long to know these people, but we had two Johns. Also, you have a lot of Johns. I don't know why everybody's John.
No way to
But one was in your position, and one was an attorney who attended the negotiating things. And I would like you to see to it that if you're going to be assigned to be on that negotiating committee with us, to please let us know. And if and whatever attorney you're going to have to come to our meetings, please let us know and give us names, and we'll get in touch when we have the working committee established far enough to be ready to sit down and start talking.
Yep, that'll be me. I'm the working committee. Another John, you're stuck with me.
No lawyer?
I'm a lawyer.
Are you a lawyer for the company?
No, but it's my job to negotiate the renewals.
Okay, well, I'm putting through a formal request here that we continue to have what we've had in past negotiations, which is you as our direct representative from Spectrum, but also somebody from your corporate legal, because you're not in a position to go to the people in your legal department to see if these certain things are allowed that we ask for.
Linda, in all honesty, anyone who negotiates from the towns is also not in a position to basically say anything or accept anything legally. It has to go to our department. So while I'm not trying to get John, excuse me, let me finish. While I'm not trying to get John off the hook,
Renee, just a minute. We had John Fogarty. And
I know what we had. I was on it for a certain period of time.
Renee, I know you were. Now, I want you to just understand that we had John go back and float trial balloons to see if they'll fly. And some of them did, and some of them didn't. And that's what I'm looking for. John Fogarty.
Okay, so the thing that I would recommend, this is really not going to be a working committee. It's going to be a subset of the committee. Last time we kept no minutes. Meetings were not posted, and I would respectfully request that this is handled correctly.
We can handle, you and I can handle that. Let's not take this meeting's time for that.
Oh no, please, Linda. We have had issues with the open meeting law, and I just want to get it on the record that a negotiating committee is a subcommittee of this group and should be handled in accordance with the open meeting law. So I'm on the record saying that.
Fine. Now, the working group I will be doing some research, and we'll be doing some legwork and not doing any negotiating and not having meetings per se for any other reason than to share that information.
Those are meetings, Linda. Whenever you deliberate, you meet. Please, again, read the open meeting law. If you get together and discuss in person, email in person, comment on those emails, even share your opinion with other people, that is a deliberation. And that means it's an open meeting, which should be, you may put it into executive session when the time is right, but that is a meeting that the public has a right to attend and know about, and that minutes should be taken on and approved by that subcommittee. So, I'm just on the record that if this is not done right, I will file an open meeting complaint. And I'll do it. And I'm not trying to get into a battle. I'm just trying to let you know what I see the rules of this engagement on
Yeah,
the negotiating group.
Renee, you have made your point. Okay?
Excuse me, could I say something? I don't know if anybody can hear me. This
Is
is
that
Eileen
Eileen? Yes, hi Eileen.
from the newsletter. My understanding of the open meeting law is what Renee is saying, and I'm frankly appalled that you had subcommittees working and not following the law last time. But I don't think you want to do that again. No matter what you call it or think of it, it would be a subcommittee, and subcommittees have to follow the open meeting law and take minutes.
Well, there were other people there besides the representatives from us, so that's.
That makes it even worse, Linda.
No, well, I wasn't in charge of it, so, okay. Now, we will have a presentation later, very soon, actually, from Dennis on some work that he's done already. And that will be following too. So so we're going to start looking at setting up some meetings, and we'll work it out. Okay, John? But you will have to attend these meetings. I don't know that we can do that stuff on Zoom.
Yeah, I've been doing it for the past year on Zoom and it's worked fine.
Well, okay, we'll
You
see.
can do it on Zoom, Linda. You just have to follow the Zoom guidelines like you did on posting the notice.
Like I said, I'm more concerned about the ability to just interact on Zoom rather than in person. And as soon as we are, as a matter of fact, I will tell you this, I checked with the town of Lenox, because this meeting would have been in Lenox. If we were able to, if the governor allowed meetings like that, could we have it in Lenox live? And she checked all around and took 2 days to get back to me after checking, and said that as far as the town of Lenox was concerned, it was fine, based on the regulations that came out a week and a half ago. So if we're going to have meetings, if we're able to have meetings live, I would like us to have meetings live. I think the interaction is more relaxed. And when it's more relaxed, you get more done. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is Dennis, you want to tell us what work you've been doing?
Sure. Let me share my screen.
Mhm.
Okay, let me know if you can see that.
Yep.
Okay. I wanted to put a little context into what Linda had asked me to do, or suggested that I do, to learn more about cable license agreements. So this might be a little review for everyone, but bear with me. Let me see if I can get rid of these, push this over. So we're a 5-town cable advisory committee, and our agreements expire on February 28th, 2023. So it's in a couple, 2 years from now. The formal review process should begin between 36 and 30 months prior to the expiration of the license per the state. And we can choose a wide variety of methods to assess the cable operator's past performance, determine the future needs and interests of the community. And that's just all important. And everything that a lot of what I'm reading right now is actually located on the Mass Department of Telecommunications and cable website and included some links to it. If anyone has trouble finding it, please let me know. So the renewal process is this 36-month period comes in 2 phases. The first phase is called ascertainment rather. It's 24 to 30 months in duration. And it formally begins with a renewal letter issued by the licensee, or a 626 letter. And I think that's something that, John, that you probably have already done. Maybe he's on mute.
Yep.
And so you would reply, we apply the results of the first phase of this review to the cable operator's proposal, or the review of the proposal. And that typically happens about a year before the end of the renewal process. It's called a Form 100. So this is the process that we're in now, and Linda has asked me to do the very bottom one, item number 9, review licenses granted by other communities in Massachusetts. But there's 9 other processes that I think are really important. And these are things that the state suggests you can do: hold a public hearing, conduct a survey, meet with community organizations, schools, senior centers, police, fire services, determine their proposed needs, review the current license, determine what terms and conditions have worked, and maybe what haven't worked as well, and what could be improved on. Review the cable operator's financial forms, customer complaint records, and this might be important in Sheffield: obtain and review a map of the service area to determine whether there are unserved parts of the community. Tour the cable operator's technical facilities, the head end. And then the final is what Linda has asked me to look at. So long story short, there's 427 licenses that are on file with the state. And Charter Communications is a smaller vendor compared to the other, Comcast and Verizon. But there's others. There's RCN and a lot of other 28 independent license agreements, some by towns that have decided that they are going to furnish their own. And these are metrics that I mentioned before to better understand why some towns have multiple vendors and some don't. I looked at our town metrics and looked at the subscriber counts, the population, the count versus population, and then the town area and square miles, and came up with some metrics. And it shows that, for instance, the people of Stockbridge, almost half subscribe to cable, which I thought was kind of high. Lee is on the low end of 25. But I think what this told me was that the cable density per square miles is pretty low. Massachusetts has 14 counties, 39 cities, and 312 towns. So 427 licenses. Almost 100 of those cities and towns have multiple licenses, and Verizon is typically a second or a third. So when you look at a second, Verizon's often there. Some towns have 3 licenses, and so large populations, densities typically have more than one vendor, with one exception. The Plimpton 15.1 square mile town, Plymouth County. So they have 3 vendors, which I thought was a surprise. All told, typically renewal agreements run for 10 years. So every 10 years, we should, refresh. These were 13 agreements that were completed in 2020, and fortunately, no Charter Spectrum contracts to understand, their legal language is versus Charter. And so far, just one contract in 2021, the town of Mendon. It's a town that's about the size of, I think it's 4,000 or 5,000 people, southeast of Worcester. And my takeaway was that it was a little bit more comprehensive. This is by no means a measurement of whether a license agreement is comprehensive, whether it has 12 articles versus 8. I thought it was important to determine what was important to the town folk at Mendon. And Article 12 was determination of reach, license verification, and Article 13, reports, audits, and performance tests. It looks like it was added. And often I wonder why, they did add that. The newer contracts have more granular definitions, including expanded gross annual revenue sections. And this one town had 3 standard PEG channels and 1 HD upon a 36-month notification request. And then something that Rich might think might be valuable is that they have downstream video cable casting from local schools and town hall. So I've done a lot of, I'll show you what my spreadsheet looks like. This is, this goes on for 470 different, 427 towns. So I got a lot of information and just a couple takeaways that much of our world's changed in the past year, never mind the past 10 years. Last time our license was renewed. And cable TV is now essentially broadband. TV cable subscriptions are becoming rapidly shrinking in lieu of streaming. And we talked about this before. You talked about, robocalling, but Spectrum's now the 5th largest telephone provider based on the number of residential lines. That's amazing in just a few years. A takeaway for me was both the feds and the state regulate cable licenses, and there's some leeway, but there's not a great amount of leeway for local CACs. That all the license agreements I reviewed are pretty similar in form and context, and the ones that I thought were best were those that were carefully worded, that specify in great detail what each party is responsible for. There's no ambiguity. And then for me, a big takeaway was it's important that we really survey our people in our town, the schools, the committees, whatever, work with Spectrum toward a renewal agreements responsive to the needs and interests of our local community. So, any questions?
Good work.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop sharing here.
This is Renee. I just wanted to ask you, I'm very impressed with your work, and I know that it's going to be a tremendous guide going forward. Were you able to find, did you pick out 1 or 2 contracts, or maybe even 3, that you found the wording to be to your liking? In other words, the specificity that you had talked about, the legal parameters.
That's a great question. That's a great question. Towns and communities are all different sizes. The language in Boston is going to be different than in Lenox, for instance.
Right.
And what I tried to do was limit the search to communities that had the same population, same area density is our 5 town communities.
Mm-hmm.
This would make the most sense to me. Because I don't know, we're spread out and we don't have the same revenue as towns in Worcester, for instance. So, Spectrum may not be able to offer as much for that, but maybe there's other communities with the same size, with the same land area that our communities have that have made changes. So there's 8 different articles. Every one is a little bit different. They all share similarities, but like I said, I thought the ones that were best were the ones that were very carefully worded, that expanded.
So did you pick out several, or can you pick out several of those that I mean, why recreate the wheel if it's possible to, to take it from somewhere else? So did you pick out, or do you have the opportunity to make some recommendations when we get to those points regarding some of those carefully worded paragraphs?
Yes and yes.
Okay,
I
good,
picked out,
great.
I don't know, 13 of them, but the language obviously is different, and it requires a careful legal eye to
Yes, right, great.
every
So the second,
term, every word means something.
yeah, we have a great counsel and compliment page if that person is still there. The second thing is, did you have a chance to see, the people, at least in my community, are going to say they wish they had more coverage. They wish it was cheaper to get coverage. They wish it didn't cost so much to have, the packages, and they wish the bills came on time. So other than that, I think a survey is a good idea. But did you have any opportunity? One of the things that we had an advantage last time in that we were combining one town with 4 towns, and there were benefits in each of those contracts that the other didn't have, that we were able to work to bring to all 5 towns. Did you have any sense of whether there had been Spectrum contracts that had been renegotiated since they took over the Time Warner franchise, and whether those contracts had any differences in them, or things that you saw that you said, this doesn't look good?
I don't understand the way Charter is organized. We started it as Time Warner. Time Warner became Spectrum. Spectrum got...
Well, Spectrum is Charter. Spectrum is, like General Mills is Charter, and Spectrum is one of their products. So,
they may have different legal departments that Charter has just recently... I don't know, John, maybe you can answer this question. How long has Charter owned Spectrum?
I believe the deal closed 5 years ago. 2016 is when the acquisition occurred. I don't know when it closed officially off the top of my head, but somewhere around that time frame, about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Charter.
I don't think it was even that long ago, John.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2016, but
I don't think it closed that then.
But
yeah,
you
it might have taken a year to close, so maybe 17.
Yeah.
But you do own Time Warner, so there's no franchise except Charter and Time Warner, some of the legacy accounts. So the contract that we're going to be negotiating is with Spectrum or Charter, correct?
Right, Charter Spectrum, yep.
Yep.
But you think of how much has changed in just the past year, through the pandemic. People, I think, have really started to understand or value, broadband and TV and streaming services. It's become more than a luxury. It's become a necessity. And I think that we should survey our community very carefully to better understand what their changing needs are, and do the best we can to adapt a new contract toward that new understanding.
Yeah, one of the things that seems to me that we really need to have to deal with is the fact that, first of all, as a cable advisory committee, we are under certain purviews that has to do with cable TV, which is basically ceasing to exist.
Yeah.
Where most of the content delivery we're getting is through broadband. And I don't know how much as our committee, I'm not really sure where we stand in terms of having to deal with that contract. It's a changing world. And I suppose when we get our subcommittee together, we'll deal with that. I would be very interested in seeing as much of the information that you've developed, sent the documents you just sold us. I'm sitting here on my computer trying to scroll through while you're on the screen. And I realize, oh, wait a minute, that's his screen. I can't scroll.
I'll send it out. I'm almost embarrassed because I'm a newbie at this. I'm not familiar.
Well, so am I.
So
I'll do a Zoom training session before our next meeting if you want.
Yeah,
The Zoom I got, but it's still like you're used to using a computer with a screen with certain things, and then
Dennis, we'll figure out how to get your presentation, to the rest of the committee.
sure.
So they
Dennis,
have-
if you want to just email it to me, I can finagle it and get it out.
Okay.
yeah, the documents that you were just showing, I'd love to see those with the links on them, because I, for one, would like to go back and look at some of the back end information that you've developed.
Yeah. I
And,
have
and
a
also would
cell
like
phone.
to say, you're really impressed with what you've done. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think you
Okay.
both have brought up an incredibly important question, and it may be one that we need to seek legal guidance on sooner than later, and or some guidance from whoever's in charge of this at the Mass government. I know we don't have anything to say about telephone, so if it's a telephone problem, we don't do anything with it or can't do. But your indications of how much is being streamed different places, are we limited in our contract coming up, even though it's not for a couple of years? Are we limited to basically what comes through the quote television? So if it's on a cell phone or an iPad, we don't have anything to do with it. So I think the two of you have raised a profound question that I think we need to get some insights into.
On that subject, since we will need to be working with an attorney, each of you needs to go back to your town. Dennis, you don't have to do it. I'll do it for Lennox, but to your town to tell them that they need to budget some money for legal work for this contract renewal for their as they're preparing their budgets for fiscal 2022.
Yeah, and most towns are already very deeply into that. So thank you, Linda. We need to get this done probably this week because there's a lot of budgetary hearings already going on. And nobody's going to be happy with a really late request. So,
The last budget, the last time we did that, we asked each of the towns to hold $1,000 for that budget. And all the towns agreed. And we will like to do that. We go back to your towns, and I'll have to get a hold of Stockbridge and Lee because they're not represented, and tell them that. But that was because when we do it as a committee, and the bill gets shared amongst 5 towns. So effectively, it's a $5,000 budget, but it's $1,000 per town. But Renee, do you think we should increase that budget to
Well,
$2,000?
we'll have 2 fiscal years. I doubt that this contract is, the 20. This comes up in when our contract is due in February of 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're good because that will expire. The 22 budget will expire at the end of middle of 22. So we'll have another fiscal year before the contract will probably be finalized. And I think just as long as the manager or town administrator knows that this negotiation is started, if they choose that they want to put more money in it, then they can.
Yeah, well, I know that in Lennox, the last time we asked for money, we were told that no, they don't need to put it in separate in the budget. They have a fund for that is discretionary fund. For the town manager.
Other towns like to make it a dedicated article, so if the money isn't spent, it carries over to the next fiscal year, and it just kind of rolls itself forward until it is either exhausted or it is basically voted out of that account. So however people want to do it, but I think the main thing is just.
I think talk to your town manager / town administrator.
Yeah,
whichever.
just let them know.
Yeah, and just let them know that we're going to need that budget for legal. Okay, Tom, you did a nice report to the town of Great Barrington, and it was concise. And so I thought it would be nice if you read it for the rest of the towns.
Okay. All right, the Five-Town Cable Advisory Committee Report 2020. The Five-Town Cable Advisory Committee met 3 times in 2020, 1 in person and 2 via Zoom. The June meeting was canceled due to COVID-19 and lack of pressing issues. CTSB has been hard at work during the pandemic, airing Zoom meetings, high school graduations, and continuing local programming. They have expanded their presence on Facebook, updated their website, and are now streaming on that site. If a resident does not have Spectrum TV but has internet, they can view all of CTSB's programming. The staff of Executive Director Rick Frederick, Operations Manager Nate Haney, Administrative Coordinator Steve Bourne, and Production Coordinator Shane Bruno have worked hard to keep the residents of the 5 towns up to date with meetings. The cable contract with the 5 towns is up for renewal in 2023. The negotiations for this will be a priority in the coming year. The committee continues to press Spectrum regarding communication and service. Questions from the committee are not always answered in a timely manner. Ongoing issues include the return of WCVB, the total WWLP programming, getting CTSB correctly labeled on the program guide, unserved/underserved areas wired, and confusion over billing dates on subscriber statements. The committee will continue to pursue these subjects. An example of how long it takes to get something done with Spectrum, in September of 2019, was brought to the attention of the Spectrum representative that on the Great Barrington Housatonic statements, the zip code listed for the franchise administrator, the town of Great Barrington, was incorrect. This was finally rectified in the last statement of 2020. Signed by our Great Barrington Housatonic representatives. That was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The PSA schedule, you still have not provided that information for where the PSAs ran, how many time slots, etc. So that we really, I'm going to take that off of the agenda from now on, but anything further that you do something like that, we would like to see your schedule, your viewing schedule before you do it. Okay, John?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. I just want, in listening to Tom, I had a thought which might help you, Rich, some. What if we worked out with each of the towns to include CTSB on town website, that they are part of the 5-town cable advisory committee groups, and that they can see the meetings on the website, on not on the website, but on your channels when they're there. I mean, school committee meetings and the town regular meetings.
From the town websites you're referring to?
Yeah.
I think that would be a considerable cost for the towns to add that to their websites, because our content would now have to be streamed out of our building.
No. It's just a promo for CTSB.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
Like keep it out permanently on the bulletin board or something.
Yes, that would be great.
Let people know where CTSB is. Tom, what do you think about that?
That's a good idea. That's fine.
Okay, I got the idea from what you were just saying, and I just wrote it down. Okay, so then that's something that we'll pursue. And And I get, since it's for CTSB, I think I'll do it in behalf of the Cable Advisory Committee to all of the 5 towns. Okay. Okay, new business, anybody? Other business? Michael, you had rate increase that you wanted to discuss?
Yes, that's a new business, but I'm going to combine it with the earlier
What?
one about taxes. and
Your,
fees.
your
I don't
volume,
hear you.
Mike?
Can you hear me? No?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. I turned the button on, I turned it off, or turned it off and turned it on. I'm not sure which. Anyway, let me talk about the internet increase in price, but related also to another topic I had about taxes and fees. And on the bill that I get, it says taxes and fees, quote, "This statement reflects the current taxes and fees for your area, including sales, excise, user taxes, etc. These taxes and fees may change without notice. In my opinion, there should be a listing of what these additional charges are. Some may indeed be a tax. Others may be a fee imposed by the company itself. In regard to that, I'll combine them both. My internet, for instance, it was $68, $70, whatever, just the internet alone. It went up, rather it was $65 a year ago, 14 months ago. Went up $5, which is 7%. 10 months later, went up another, I got it backwards, up total of $9 in 14 months. That comes out to like a 14% increase in that period of time. I couple that with these unknown taxes and fees. And I recall used to get a Verizon bill way back when, and it had everything listed, publicity fee, this fee, taking the chairman's granddaughter out to dinner fee, and all these other crazy kinds of fees. And I would like to see some verification of what they are, especially when there's an increase. And it's not just my bill, it's probably happening to everybody, where these bills are just pushed up for, whatever reason. And as I said before, and others are saying, internet services are now an essential part of our community. It's no longer an option like it was once upon a time. It's essential, and we should know what we are paying.
Okay.
Perhaps we include that on the new contract if we get no clarification on those items before.
Yes, I agree. I actually happen to agree with you on that. I think there are issues with Spectrum's business practices that we need to look at. One, and unfortunately, I don't know where this committee, where we stand in that, simply because everything comes over the same wire. We get television over the same wire, cable, which is our purview, but then we get internet over the same wire, which is, as far as I know, is not our purview. I've noticed, for instance, that the same thing happened on mine. I got unhappy, let's put it, with the television service over a year ago, and I'm what they call a cord cutter. I cut it. I don't have television service anymore. I have only internet, and this month I was looking at my internet. It's gone up. There's no warning. I got nothing ahead of time saying, oh, we're going to increase this. And one of the problems we have is there's no alternative. This is a utility as far as I'm concerned, and it should be regulated like a utility, because there is no alternative. I can't get internet, I can't get broadband any other way than through Spectrum. And they can just willy-nilly whip the prices up without saying anything to anybody, just send you a new bill with a higher amount on it. So I don't know with this committee where we can go with that. In other words, do we have to go to the state regulators? Do we have to go to the FCC to
Yes.
deal with it?
Two, to the Department of Telecommunications and Cable, also known as DTC in Boston, and to the FCC.
So yeah, it's and that's one of several business practices of Spectrum or Charter that I find.
And that's the kind of thing that when you have those issues, you should contact the DTC minimally.
Well, I guess that will be done. I mean, I get every couple of weeks, I get something from them saying, no, you can have television for $45 a month and internet for $45 a month, but that's not actually accurate, because if you choose the television, then they tack on, I don't know what it is these days, $15, $20, $30 a month for the fees.
My cable bill, because I have home phone as well and internet, and I have cable services, is it's about $230
Whoa.
a month.
Wow.
I just have internet and phone and mine is 90.
I remember talking to Jim when I first joined, and we talked, and Jim, I have cut the cable. I got tired of looking at the price. It kept going up. At my house here, there was a tenant living here I moved in 3 years ago. I'm still getting mail from like 5 or 6 different tenants addressed to them, trying to sell me something or other. It's not at once every 3 weeks. It's about 2 or 3 pieces of mail come each week.
Yeah, I get the same thing too.
Spectrum could save a fortune just by cutting their mail services and delivering our bills on time.
Yeah, well, I find one of the things I find is that the mail they get is deceptive, because it says it says you can have internet service for $45 a month, or television service. You can't, because they tack on these fees, and then they refuse to give us any information about how these fees are derived. This is something a year or so ago I asked about, saying, all right, so we've got these fees for these broadcast fees, I guess, and I'd ask your prior, the person in John's prior position,
Melinda.
about
is still there.
What to break these down, and I was told, well, this is proprietary, so which means that we're paying for stuff and we have no idea what we're paying for or why.
Well, no, if that happens, if you ask again and you don't get a breakdown, then you should bring it to the committee. That's all.
Well, I'm asking for a breakdown.
John. Contact John.
Well, I'm talking to John. I'm asking for a breakdown of the internet fees.
I think it's bigger in the committee, though. I think this is a state and federal issue. It would be like us questioning the IRS in terms of why we're taxed so much. I think that you should direct your questions to your local rep.
Okay. We're heading on 8 o'clock, so I want to move the agenda and wrap up here. But that's something that the information is there. It's just a matter of getting to the right place to get it. That's all. And we'll have to work on that. Okay.
Well, our representative, Richie Neal, is in a very powerful position right now.
Yep.
And he has been kind of a champion of a lot of this telecommunication stuff. So I think your letter asking for what the heck is this it would be kind of an eye-opener to Richie Neal's staff. And I wouldn't send it to our local reps per se, because I think a lot of this is possibly FCC regulated. If I was going to write a letter, I'd send it to Richie Neal. And then copy our local reps. Copy our local reps and, the state agency. That usually gets people's attention when it goes to a higher up.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to skip the next item, and I sent out that column that Nicholas Christoph wrote in the New York Times, because it's interesting that it it does relate to us, and it's food for thought on the channels that we're paying for. But should we be paying for them is the question that he raises. So, and should they be carried the way they are? So we'll either save that for another time if we have time, but I did send it out to everybody, and anybody who's interested should see that. It's February 11th, 2021, New York Times column, Nicholas Kristof. Okay. The last thing, or next to last thing on the agenda, because the last thing is setting the date for the next meeting, is election of chairman. It's 2 years a term, and this latest one is up. So do I have any nominations for chairman? Nobody's going to nominate anybody.
Are you willing to continue the fight from the chair you're in?
Let's put it this way. I'll hang out if you guys want me to hang out until we get the new contract.
Well, in that case, I want to nominate Linda. It's not a,
And I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
do we have to do a roll call on this one?
Yes, we have to do a roll call. So I'm gonna, let's see. There's no particular order. The way I see you on the screen, Tom, you're on the top level, so you go first.
I'll vote for Linda.
Dennis, you're in the next row.
I'm in the lower tier. I vote for you as well. I'm in the lower tier.
Next is Jim.
I vote for you, Linda.
Michael.
Aye.
Okay, that's all the voting members that are here, and it is the three
Well,
towns.
Renee also.
We're all Great Barrington.
I'm sorry. Renee, my apologies.
Renee, I vote for you, and I thank you for taking this again.
Yes.
Thank
Me too,
Okay.
because none of the rest of us want to do this job.
We know that.
Right. Right.
Thanks a lot, guys. George, thanks for joining us, but you're a little late.
Yes, sir.
I do have one question. Which of the Great Barrington representatives are going to contact Town Hall regarding the things we talked about tonight?
Can we get together separately? Again, somebody tell us about open meeting law rules, but can we make that decision, get together separately and talk it over? And
yeah, there's three of you, so it becomes an open meeting law issue if there was only two.
Well, Tom, you sound like you've been the supervisor of our little committee here in writing the town.
Well, they asked me to. That's why I do it.
Okay, well, please continue.
I vote for Tom.
I think actually you can get together because each town can have three representatives, if I'm correct. And
Correct.
you three represent Great Barrington. But as long as you are not a majority of the committee as it's currently constituted, which I don't think you are, because we're more than five, right, Linda? We have more than 5 members?
We have
One vote.
we have let's see, we have 3 from Great Barrington, 2 from Lennox.
Okay, we're already, and you got you and, yeah, we're already over 5. So you're not a majority of the committee. You're not a quorum. So I think you're safe.
Well, each town has 1 vote, and we're only 1 town.
That's right.
But each town can have up to 3 committee members.
Yes, but we only have 1 vote.
Right.
So us selecting.
I'm not counting votes. I'm counting members.
Well, it doesn't matter.
All right.
You count members, not votes.
Anyway.
I think you're safe.
No problem.
All right, we'll figure it out. The next meeting, June 8th, 6:30 p.m., if allowed, in Lee.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Me.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Move adjourned.
Pardon me?
Seconded.
All members do.
Okay, that doesn't even require, a motion to adjourn doesn't require a vote, nor does it require a count of heads or anything, so. Okay, so we're adjourned.